There comes a time in life when you begin to feel tired, not physically, but deeply within your soul. You smile on the outside, but inside something feels heavy. You start questioning why your energy is always low, why your peace never lasts, and why certain people leave you feeling worse instead of better. The truth is simple, yet often ignored. Not everyone who is close to you is good for you. Some people don't just take your time, they take your peace, your motivation, and even your connection with what truly matters. And the longer you allow them access, the more you lose parts of yourself without even realizing it. There are people who enter your life in a way that feels normal at first. Nothing seems wrong in the beginning. They talk, they laugh, they share moments with you, but slowly something begins to shift within you. You start to notice that after spending time with them, your heart feels heavier instead of lighter. Your mind feels crowded instead of clear. Your energy feels depleted instead of renewed. A soul drainer is not always loud, aggressive, or openly harmful. Sometimes they appear as those who constantly complain about everything around them. Every conversation turns into negativity. Every situation becomes a problem. They rarely express gratitude, and even when something good happens, they find a way to turn it into something disappointing. Being around them feels like standing under a dark cloud that never moves. Then there are those who subtly undermine you. They don't openly criticize, but their words carry hidden weight. When you share your dreams, they respond with doubt. When you speak about progress, they remind you of failure. When you feel hopeful, they bring fear into the conversation. They don't clap for you, they question you. And over time, their words begin to echo in your own thoughts. Some soul drainers come in the form of constant takers. They always need your attention, your support, your presence. But when you need them, they are absent. When you are struggling, they are unavailable. The relationship becomes one-sided, where you are always pouring and they are always receiving. And eventually you find yourself empty, wondering why you feel so exhausted. There are also those who bring chaos wherever they go. Drama follows them, conflict surrounds them, and somehow you are always pulled into situations that disturb your peace. You may not even be directly involved, yet their presence alone creates tension in your life. You begin to feel restless, anxious, and unsettled without a clear reason. One of the clearest signs is how you feel after you leave them. Pay attention to that feeling. Do you feel uplifted, calm, and motivated? Or do you feel drained, irritated, and overwhelmed? Your heart often recognizes what your mind tries to ignore. That heaviness is not random. That discomfort is not meaningless. It is a signal. Sometimes the difficulty is that these people are not strangers. They may be friends, colleagues, or even individuals you have known for years. This makes it harder to accept the reality. You keep holding on to who they used to be while ignoring who they have become in your life now. You convince yourself to be patient, to be understanding, to keep giving chances, even when every sign is telling you otherwise. You may also confuse tolerance with strength. You tell yourself that enduring their behavior makes you a better person. But there is a difference between being patient and being constantly drained. True strength is not in allowing harm to continue, but in recognizing when something is quietly damaging your inner state. Another subtle sign is how your behavior changes around them. You begin to filter your words, suppress your thoughts, and shrink your personality just to avoid conflict or negativity. You are no longer your natural self. Instead, you are adjusting, holding back, and walking carefully. And this quiet self-suppression slowly takes a toll on your soul. Recognizing soul drainers early requires honesty with yourself. It requires you to stop making excuses for how people make you feel. It requires you to trust the discomfort instead of dismissing it. Not every connection is meant to be maintained at the same level, and not every person deserves full access to your energy and your presence. There is a peace that settles quietly within the heart, a calm that cannot be seen but is deeply felt. It is the kind of peace that allows you to sleep without restlessness, to wake up without heaviness, and to move through life without constant inner noise. This peace is not something small. It is not something ordinary. It is a gift, a blessing that many are searching for but few truly protect. You may not always notice its value when it is present. It becomes most visible when it is disturbed. The moment your thoughts become crowded, your chest feels tight, and your patience begins to wear thin, you start to realize what you had and what is now slipping away. Inner peace is not just about feeling good. It is about stability, clarity, and a sense of alignment within yourself. Many people sacrifice this peace without even realizing it. They allow certain individuals, conversations, and environments to repeatedly disturb their calm. They entertain negativity, engage in unnecessary arguments, and keep connections that bring tension instead of tranquility. Slowly, their inner state becomes unstable, but they continue as if this is normal. Your peace is not meant to be constantly negotiated. It is not meant to be placed in situations where it is repeatedly shaken. Every time you allow something harmful to enter your space, you are giving away a portion of that calm, and the more you give, the less remains for yourself. There is a difference between being kind and being careless with your own well-being. Protecting your peace does not mean you have become distant or harsh. It means you have understood the value of what you carry within. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every situation requires your involvement. Not every person should have unrestricted access to your time and your emotions. When your inner peace is strong, your decisions become clearer. You are not reacting from anger or frustration. You are responding with thoughtfulness and balance. You are less affected by the negativity around you because your foundation is steady. But when that peace is disturbed repeatedly, your reactions begin to change. Small things start to feel overwhelming. Minor issues begin to feel heavy. Your ability to handle life with patience begins to weaken. There are moments when you will feel pressured to compromise your peace for the sake of keeping others comfortable. You may stay silent when something bothers you. You may tolerate behavior that unsettles you. You may continue relationships that drain you simply to avoid discomfort or conflict. But every time you do this, you are silently teaching yourself that your peace is less important than everything else. Your inner calm is connected to your sense of purpose, your clarity of thought, and your emotional strength. When it is protected, you feel more grounded. When it is neglected, you feel scattered. It influences how you see the world, how you treat others, and how you carry yourself through challenges. There is also a deep connection between peace and awareness. The more aware you become of what disturbs you, the more careful you are about what you allow into your life. You begin to notice patterns, to recognize triggers, and to understand what supports your well-being and what quietly damages it. This awareness becomes a guide, helping you make choices that preserve your inner stability. Sometimes protecting your peace requires difficult decisions. It may require stepping back from certain people, limiting interactions, or changing environments. These decisions are not always easy, especially when emotions and history are involved. But the difficulty of these choices does not reduce their importance. Your peace is not replaceable. Once it is disturbed repeatedly, rebuilding it takes time, effort, and patience. It is far easier to protect it than to constantly repair it. And the more you value it, the more intentional you become with your energy, your boundaries, and your presence. Not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves a response. There is strength in choosing silence, in walking away from unnecessary noise, and in preserving your calm when everything around you tries to disrupt it. There is a misunderstanding that has settled deeply into many hearts. The idea that setting boundaries means you are being rude, distant, or unkind. Many people grow up believing that saying no is a form of rejection, that limiting access to yourself is a sign of arrogance, and that constantly being available is what defines goodness. Because of this belief, they continue to stretch themselves beyond their limits, allowing others to cross lines that should have never been open in the first place. But boundaries are not acts of disrespect. They are acts of clarity. They are a quiet declaration of what you can handle, what you will accept, and what you will no longer allow. They are not meant to hurt others, but to protect what has been entrusted to you within yourself. When you begin to set boundaries, you may notice something uncomfortable. Not everyone will accept them easily. Some will question you. Some will push back. Some may even accuse you of changing or becoming difficult. This reaction is not always because you are doing something wrong, but because they were used to a version of you that had no limits. They were comfortable with your silence, your availability, and your willingness to tolerate everything without question. Boundaries reveal the truth of relationships. The people who respect you will adjust, even if it takes time. They will try to understand, even if they do not fully agree at first. But those who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist, because your growth interrupts their comfort. There is a difference between being respectful and being constantly accessible. You can speak with kindness and still say no. You can be gentle and still stand firm. You can care about others and still choose not to engage in what drains you. These are not contradictions. They are signs of balance. Without boundaries, resentment begins to build quietly. You may not express it immediately, but it grows within. Every time you agree to something that exhausts you, every time you stay in a situation that disturbs you, every time you allow someone to overstep without response, a small weight is added to your heart. Over time, that weight becomes difficult to carry. You might find yourself becoming frustrated over small things. You might feel irritated without understanding why. This is often the result of unspoken boundaries, limits that were never expressed but were repeatedly crossed. When you do not define your space, others will define it for you, and not always in a way that honors your well-being. Setting boundaries also requires you to be honest with yourself. You must first recognize what affects you, what drains you, and what you are no longer willing to tolerate. This level of honesty is not always easy because it forces you to confront patterns you may have accepted for a long time. It may show you that you have been overextending yourself, prioritizing others at the cost of your own peace. There are moments when you will feel guilty for setting limits. That feeling may come from a place of habit, from being used to always saying yes, always being there, always accommodating. But guilt does not always mean you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it simply means you are doing something new, something that challenges old patterns. Boundaries are not all walls meant to isolate you from the world. They are guidelines that allow you to engage with the world in a healthy way. They help you give without losing yourself, support without becoming overwhelmed, and connect without feeling consumed. You begin to notice a shift when boundaries are in place. Your interactions become more intentional. Your energy is not scattered across things that do not matter. You feel more in control of your time, your emotions, and your responses. Instead of reacting out of pressure, you respond with awareness. There is also a quiet confidence that develops. You are no longer afraid of disappointing others when it comes to protecting your well-being. You understand that not every expectation placed upon you must be fulfilled. You realize that your worth is not measured by how much you tolerate, but by how well you preserve what is within you. Sometimes boundaries are simple. Choosing not to engage in certain conversations, limiting the time you spend in draining environments, taking a step back when you feel overwhelmed. Other times they require more courage, speaking up when something feels wrong, saying no when you know you cannot give more, creating distance when closeness becomes harmful. Each boundary you set is a step toward balance. It is a reminder that your presence is valuable, your energy is limited, and your well-being matters. There is a common belief that if someone is part of your life, they automatically deserve your time, your attention, your energy, and your closeness. You feel obligated to respond, to be present, to remain available, even when something within you feels unsettled. You convince yourself that maintaining access is the same as maintaining goodness, that distance is a form of neglect, and that limiting someone's presence in your life is unfair. But access to you is not something ordinary. It is not something that should be handed out freely without thought. Your time is limited, your energy is valuable, and your emotional space is not endless. Every person you allow into that space influences you in some way. They shape your thoughts, affect your mood, and impact your sense of stability, whether you notice it immediately or not. Not everyone who knows you deserves to be close to you. Not everyone who speaks to you deserves to reach your inner world. There is a difference between being kind to people and allowing them deep access into your life. Kindness can be given from a distance, but access is something far more personal. It requires trust, respect, and a level of awareness that not everyone carries. Sometimes people become familiar, and familiarity creates a false sense of entitlement. They begin to assume that your time belongs to them, that your attention is always available, that your presence is something they can reach whenever they choose. And if you have never placed limits, they may never realize that this access was a privilege, not a right. There are individuals who only come to you when they need something. They reach out when they are struggling, when they are bored, when they want comfort, but they disappear when you are the one in need. This pattern may not be obvious at first, but over time it becomes clear. The connection is not built on mutual care, but on convenience. And yet they continue to have full access to you because you have never restricted it. There are also those who carry negativity into every interaction. They speak in ways that lower your motivation, question your growth, and disturb your peace. Still, you allow them into your space, into your conversations, into your thoughts. You give them a level of closeness that they have not earned, and in return they leave behind a sense of heaviness that lingers long after they are gone. Access is not just physical presence, it is emotional and mental as well. It is who you allow to influence your thinking, who you open up to, who you share your vulnerabilities with. When the wrong people have this level of access, it affects how you see yourself. Their words begin to shape your self-perception. Their doubts begin to weaken your confidence. Their negativity begins to cloud your clarity. Limiting access does not mean you are cutting people off completely. It means you are adjusting the level at which they are allowed into your life. Some people can remain in your circle but not in your inner space. Some can be acquaintances but not confidants. Some can be known but not trusted deeply. This distinction is important because it allows you to maintain connections without compromising your well-being. It also requires you to let go of the fear of being misunderstood. Not everyone will understand why you have stepped back, why you have become less available, or why you no longer engage in the same way. They may interpret it as distance, as change, or even as rejection. But their understanding is not always a reflection of your intention. Sometimes it is simply a reaction to no longer having the same level of access they once had. You begin to realize that constantly being available does not make you more valuable. In fact, it often leads others to take your presence for granted. When access is unlimited, it is rarely appreciated. But when it is intentional, when it is given with awareness, it carries weight. It becomes something meaningful rather than something expected. There is also a quiet shift within you when you start to control who has access to your life. You become more selective, more aware, more intentional with your interactions. You start to notice who respects your time, who values your presence, and who contributes positively to your inner state. You begin to recognize that closeness should be earned through consistency, respect, and sincerity, not assumed through familiarity or history. Your life is not a place where everyone should walk freely without consideration. It is a space that deserves care, attention, and protection. The more mindful you are about who you allow into that space, the more stable and grounded you begin to feel. There comes a moment of realization when you begin to understand that not every presence in your life is meant to remain, and not every connection is meant to go deeper. You start to see clearly that protecting your inner state is not selfish. It is necessary. That your peace is not something small, it is something sacred. And that your energy is not unlimited, it is a trust that must be managed with care. You were not created to carry everyone. You were not meant to absorb every negativity, solve every problem, or remain available at the cost of your own well-being. There is wisdom in knowing when to step back, when to stay silent, and when to distance yourself from what disturbs your soul. As you grow, you begin to choose differently. You become more aware of who you allow close, more mindful of what you engage in, and more protective of what you feel within. You stop explaining yourself to those who do not understand, and you stop seeking validation for decisions that preserve your peace. Letting go of certain access does not mean you have become cold. It means you have become aware. It means you have learned that not everyone is meant to walk every step of your journey with you. Some people are lessons, some are tests, and only a few are meant to be a source of ease and support. When you begin to limit what drains you, you create space for what restores you. When you step away from constant noise, you begin to hear clarity again. When you protect your inner calm, you find strength that was once hidden beneath exhaustion. And in that quiet strength, you move forward with a heart that is lighter, a mind that is clearer, and a soul that is no longer burdened by what it was never meant to carry.